The DA's Federal Legal Commission Chair, Glynnis Breytenbach, is said to be leading that investigation. DA spokesperson Soli Malatsi joins me now from our Cape Town studio. Soli, a very good evening to you. Firstly, how many leaders within the DA have you asked to hand in their electronic devices?
Good evening, Kathy, and good evening to your viewers. I mean, Kathy, as is, natural with an ongoing investigation, I think it will be highly inappropriate to get into the mechanisms of how the Federal Legal Commission gathers evidence in doing its work. What Federal Executive has asked, because it has been concerned for some time with the leaking of information or confidential information from, different meetings of structures in the party. And in this case, there was the leaking of scores and rankings of candidates for the premiership of the Western Cape, which has a direct impact on our ability to conduct internal selection processes. So what Federal Executive has merely done is to request that the Federal Legal Commission institute an investigation. And I think at this stage, while the investigation is ongoing, it will be highly inappropriate and even unfair to that process, to be making comments as to how they are conducting their work. As Federal Executive, will await the completion of that investigation and a report when it's presented to us.
Of course, it would say a lot about the DA in terms of what is happening within the party currently if those that you believe are behind the leaking of this information are some of your top leaders in the party. So to the extent that these are questions that those who not only are part of the party but would vote for the party are relevant, how much of your top structures in terms of leadership do you believe could be behind the leaking of this information?
Look, I mean, the Federal Executive, has expressed its concern about, leaking of information holistically, So what we have done with this particular investigation is to empower the Federal Legal Commission, which is the body responsible for, enforcing discipline in the party and conducting investigation of that nature, to investigate this particular aspect and present a report to the party. I think, any leadership structure that is concerned about the integrity of its internal processes wants to protect that so that information that is disseminated in the public is accurate information. And often the case with leaking is that it presents a narrow view or a politically expedient view of, views from confidential meetings of the party. And this investigation, will sought to establish, how that information that was confidential in the party got to be disseminated through unofficial channels of the party.
What about the extent to which Bonginkosi Madikizela has confirmed that, in fact, some of his electronic devices were asked for and he refused to hand them in?
Look, I think, to be fair, Kathy, to the ongoing investigation, it will be reckless and irresponsible of me to talk about the process of collating and gathering evidence while that investigation is still on. I do not know how the Federal Legal Commission at this stage has sought to establish evidence, in conducting this investigation. And in all fairness to their job that they've been asked to do, one can make conclusive remarks once they've concluded that work and presented a report which we would have interrogated. At this stage, they have been assigned a responsibility to investigate their leak. How they conduct their investigation and collate evidence, it is part of doing their job, and it will be unfair to that process to start making, any comment whatsoever as an official structure of the party that has been mandated to do its work.
Is the DA leader Musi Maimane part of those that are on the list in terms of your investigation? Has he been asked to hand in his electronic devices?
Again, for the sanctity of that process, which is not conclusive at this stage. Because,
but can you confirm whether or not he's part of the investigation? A simple yes or no. It's not a complicated answer, just a simple yes or no.
Only the Federal Legal Commission will be in a position to establish that, because it's the one that is conducting that work. And until they've completed that work, unless those people that have been directly affected have commented on that, it will be inappropriate for me to comment on that.
So is it likely that he's also one of those being investigated?
I will be speculating on an ongoing process that hasn't been concluded.
But you cannot confirm that he's definitely not one of those being investigated?
I will be speculating. It will be irresponsible to speculate on who are the people that have at this stage already appeared before the Federal Legal Commission for an investigation that is still ongoing and not conclusive.
All right. What do you hope to do when you do find the mole, as it's been called, who's been leaking information? What does the party intend to do with that individual or those individuals, depending on the outcome of that investigation?
Look, I mean, in an event like this, what the party steps to take will be guided by what the report recommends, and the recommendations will then guide the steps. But I think the intention with this is to ensure that we protect the sanctity of confidential discussions, so that when we have discussions at leadership level across the party, people can then have the freedom to express themselves without the fear that their views can be distorted or presented in a twisted way outside of those formal structures of the party.
What does the DA believe is behind the leaking of this information, especially because we know that unity is not necessarily a concept, it's also a concept that the party is struggling with currently. So what do you think is behind these leaks?
I mean, the problem with leaks is they mostly present a distorted view of what actually the real scenario is, and the intention is to protect the credibility of our internal processes. So the intention with this particular one, obviously, is to be able to, those that were responsible for the leaking, for action to be taken against them based on, what the constitution of the party says and what the outcome of that investigation would reveal. But, lo and behold, it's about protecting the sanctity of our internal discussion, so that, again, different individuals and leaders who serve in these structures can have the freedom to express themselves freely in these discussions, but also so that the views of formal meetings of the party are not twisted through leaks or distorted through individuals who might not have the authority to speak on behalf of the party about certain issues in the party.
All right, that's where we leave it for tonight. So Malatsi is